Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another. He didn't even really get, and it came from the Workbench series, which is kind of a shame. But Rainbird, our good man Rainbird, who has been designated as the once, now, and future flyweight of the Canyon fleet. And I believe that everybody should have more than one rock crawler. But I also simultaneously believe that the Canyon should have one lightweight, and this is he. We are gradually, oh, it's killing me that see that right there, see the little bit of thread sticking out, that needs to be replaced with a shorter one. But to do that, I have to unstick all of my electronics. Just Dremel it off. Anyway, we are of course deep into the weaning, chasing of the grams. You will notice plastic wheels in the back, alloy bead locks in the front. I did a little weight comparo on those. We still don't have a full scaling because I want to get some changes instituted esta día, today. We are going to do some things because McMaster Industrial jumped the line. This was not supposed to be here yet. Mitsubishi Chemical Advanced Materials Delrin rectangular bar 4x12 by 3/8 of an inch. Inside of this rests the spirit of the replacement skid, because I don't want to change links, I don't want to change rod ends, I don't want to do any of that. I want to remove the 4, 8, 12, I want to remove the 12 screws, and I want to copy this, in essence, out of this, but without an adapter plate to mount the gearbox. And also, while we're at it, see we've got big clearance right here, and then if we can get this lined up, look right here. I can't get to full squish because that upper is rubbing ever so slightly on the drive shaft. Could I eliminate that by going to something like this? Going to a cut to length? Yes, much narrower. Is this heavier than the all plastics? Boy howdy. So I'd rather not. I also, while this is out, we are going to make some decisions. Some decisions 2024. Because we've got this guy, which is an element cobble-bodged together to get it down to the 66 millimeters eye to eye that we need it to be. But it cannot, you have to unbolt either the motor plate or the gearbox itself to get that shaft in or out. So I did find an AMK, does it say what? Yeah, 60 to 77, but it is all metal. It is all metal. So the weights have got to be close. We do have the trade it back option. While we have it out, I might as well. We've got a Mias aluminum alloy motor plate. I like the alloy motor plate because it stiffens up the front end, but I'm quite sure that it's going to weigh double what the stock motor plate weighs. So we have a couple of options here. First of which is we just do. We change out the motor plate. We change the aluminum motor plate out to the plastic one. See how that feels. But I also noticed, I mean, there's a, can we see it from the front? Yeah, right there. See that little notch? That's where the drive shaft goes. So much as I would love to try to drop the motor plate down, unfortunately, for my own predilections, they thought it out too well. They thought it out too well, and that is pretty much where it's going to sit. Again, we could put a high clearance link aiming down to clear below, get that motor plate down a little bit. There's not a lot of weight on the motor plate, and we're going to do this as well. We're going to dig through the parts bin, and we're going to see if we can't find something to, like if we can find some carbon, turn a little carbon plate there to relieve that metal one. That'll shave some grams, also rotating. I think the biggest is going to be, I would like to, if possible, you can see the clearance here. I would like to scooch this back ever so slightly, if I can. That will soften the angle on the upper shaft. It will soften the angle on the front shaft. The rear shaft will also have less of a drop. If we can, depending on where the links come out, once we start cutting this up, we might be able to do a little dado work and get this to sit down a little bit lower. The lower I can get that, the better. It's pretty low now, but you know what? We will find out. We'll find out together. Oh, did I happen to mention 127.6 grams is what I got. This one is about the same. Let's call it 128 grams because it's over half. These are 100 grams with the plastic wheels on them. So that is 54 grams off, just a hair shy of 2 ounces. And it's getting worse, everybody. If we're going to get it worse, let's get it worse. These are 8 screw. These are Vanquish KMCs. I believe these are optic stock wheels. They probably come on many Vanquish. They were the set that I found. They take 8 screws to put them together, and I only used 4. We will find out if that causes an issue when we take this out and put it on the rocks. I have a little bit more fastener optimization to go through. I also ordered some, came in the same order with this McMaster. I have 6mm aluminum rod. And I would like to replace this and this brace, this brace, this brace. And I'm debating on just omitting the bumper altogether. It really depends on what the gram savings is. The goal today, I would like to drop another 50 grams or so if possible. I don't know what we're going to have to do in the way of speed holes and whatnot. We're going to find out basically what the plate and the stock chassis bottom weigh together. And I will make every effort to reproduce it as close as humanly possible, including using... I have no problem with the retention method that they use for these, which is these big, super long screw pin boys. I like that they're 4mm thread. I like that they're crazy long. I am going to, like I say, I am going to make every effort to reproduce this skid. There's the problem. There is the problem. When that drops loose, it falls under and you can't get it out. So see how there's a little snout there? We may carve as much out of that snout as we can. I was just going to do this on my own time, but we're here, right? This has rapidly become one of my favorite lower link mounting options. More folks should be doing that, because rather than running a 3mm screw there, it's a pin, so it fits a lot tighter, and a smooth pin is going to be a lot stronger. Also, because it's an M4, it uses a 2mm driver instead of a 1.5. If there are extensive drawbacks to using those big pins, I have as of yet not located what they are. I think it's great. More people should. I'm also pondering, those are 10s. Might be able to get away with 8s. These are as short as they can be, but they will not be transferring over. I should have taken some screws out of the T-case in the top. We can just do this, though. They're all pulled. They're all... That's always going to be fun to put back together. As I mentioned, I had to cobble an element shaft together to get an upper shaft short enough. Like the cut-to-lengths, the typical cut-to-lengths, you can't get that short. I think they go to 68mm. Is the shortest you can get them. All right. I need to do this now, otherwise I'll forget. By that motion, this feels like it weighs as much as this. So we're omitting this. Now this has got the big carve-outs for where the regular gearbox sits. I don't know if transferring to Delrin I genuinely don't know if we can get the piece this light. This is light, but it's already put away in a drawer, but we got rid of the gearbox, which weighs half a pound. Ooh! Nope. Hold on. I never did weigh them independently / individually. So here is what I did is I took a slider shaft and I cut it and I took it to the lathe and I bored it out. And then I think this is a 27mm screw that goes all the way through it. And then that just mates into the little short half, which is hidden way up there. And so it's not even really a slider, but it has good engagement on it. So, I mean, I would like something that is easier to service, but if the weight is too great on the other piece, then it will be a non-starter. I'm trying to stick to all plastics. These are a mix of various axial parts. That top shaft, yeah, both of those shafts could have a shim on them. All three of those shafts could have a shim on them. But it does feel pretty smooth. It's a little knocky. Let me see. Can we see it? Yeah, it's a little knocky. All right. Creeper T, 65 grams. The gears are big and steel. 65 grams is heavier than I would have anticipated. But 232. Well, and actually we have to. Okay, we'll get the whole thing. 256. I should write that down. 256 for gearbox with skid, because they have to be considered together as the skid is the bottom of the gearbox. Is that right or is that backwards? That's backwards. There we go. So that's the whole deal. 256. So our total savings is going to be viewed from a perspective of this and this put together. We're going to pretend that this 11 grams. 11 for that. 24. Okay. So 35 together. Okay, we'll give that as a soft ceiling. If we can get our full Delrin skid below 35 grams, we will consider that a win, because we did have to run these two together. We'll ignore the fasteners, the fact that we needed to use 8 and now we'll be using 4. So, Creeper T, which, see, I kind of want to shim it, but I don't want it too, right? You don't want any resistance in it. It was running pretty smooth. Let's get this cut out. And the beauty is having this. We can go millimeter by millimeter. We're gonna cut this little fella right out of there. And let me get this roughed out, and I'll bring you in on a little bit of the thought process as we get to this put together, and then we will get it weighted. We will get it on the scales. We will get it corner balanced again, because I think we'll be at a mostly lightened place. Oh wait, hold on. Before we segue. Oh. There's a lot of, even in that S12, man, thing's got some torques. Okay, we won't consider the pins. This feels pretty light, gotta say. So that is what I cobbled together. What's the over that we'll take? 20. That is an ounce. 28.3. That's an ounce. We're just gonna like a couple of brutal savages. We're just gonna go right through the whole thing. This is gonna be like double that, isn't it? It is pretty nice. Oh, I'd be able to easily service everything. All right, 28.3, 31.4. Yeah, for sure. 3 grams? 3 grams. Come on now. This makes me want to dig into the bins, find a cut to length, and be like, that's 32 grams. We might, if we're talking 3 grams, man, we can cut 3 grams somewhere if it'll allow us to run cut to lengths which are thinner and just all around nicer. But before the befores, look at this. Ooh. let's get together and using almost exclusively a table saw, and it's an Incra. It's an Incra 3000. We're gonna make this, and the beauty of things like this is there is an almost endless number of times and places to absolutely mess this up. You can mess it up so bad, because first we've got to cut out the shape, which looks like this. It was this guy. This guy is 74 by 54. So this is, of course, 75 by 55. We're going to go a tiny bit over because we're going to have to sand some stuff. We're going to have to route some stuff. Now, there will be basically... I randomly chose the end. Nothing sticks to Delrin. So, I mean, no residue, nothing sticks to Delrin. It can be friction welded, but you can't glue Delrin at all. It does take thread pretty much like aluminum. So we will transfer no holes, no nothing over from one to the other. Yeah, sure enough, that's a millimeter longer. There it is. Little edge there, little edge there. What we do is we get our buddy the caliper and we go. That is 16 millimeters. So we're going to set the table saw to 16 millimeters. We're going to set the depth to this right here. And then I'm going to use my Incra. Oh, okay. Everybody's like, I'm not a table saw guy. What's an Incra? When we push material across a table saw, Susan will be the table. Imagine somewhere here in the amidships is the blade. We go like this, pass across like this. That's not safe. So we get this big boy, the Incremiter 3000, and we make it slightly more safe by putting this up against here, and then we pass over the blade. I do it in a very unsafe method. Don't do as I say, nor as I do, except when I tell you don't do this at home. I set the fence, so there is a fence over here set to 16 millimeters from the blade. I put this against this, press it against the blade, and then I make my passes. Now, because we're working with something that is really symmetrical, see, it's 16 millimeters from the edge all the way around. Once we set our blade depth, we go at 16. I just keep flipping it. I do all 4 cuts, and then we move the blade over. And then I do all 4 cuts, and then I move the blade over until they are exactly the width. First opportunity to mess it up, we're going to keep measuring. These are 7.6, so we're going to shoot for around that 7.6, just shaving off a hair at a time. And then the goal will be, the next time you see this, it will look like this minus the holes and those little bits. We do those little bits later. 3 bits, 2 taps, 8 holes, drilled and tapped. Here we've got our guy. He definitely needs the relief work. You can see that one's hitting. Not only does the front one hit, the front is this way. So you see you got these reliefs right here. I was like, oh, we'll just bolt it up for a mock-up so we can see where we need to trim. When you run the plastic pivot balls, that pin came right out of the side of the pivot ball and destroyed it because it couldn't pull this in because it was binding right there quite badly. It looks like, let's see, we're really, really close. We're really, really, really close. And I will probably do this in the olden way, which ordinarily what we would do is we'd make sure it was sanded down. We'd take a nice sharp pencil. We'd go along like this, and we'd mark that out so that we know what to remove. I'm just gonna go absolutely ham it. Well, no, I'm not yet. I'm not yet. We've got our good friend, the axial gearbox bolt pattern shim, which is that guy right there. And it's great because you don't have to try to figure out where things need to line up. So we'll get this guy set down. Okay, he's sitting down. And we're just gonna we're gonna do a little guesstimato here. It's probably going to be right about there. Because what we've got to look at is making sure screws up from the bottom aren't anywhere near the channels that the screws are going through to hold the links. Right there looks pretty strongly okay. If necessary, we can go a little bit this way, but that will move it forward, I think. Well, we've got our boy right here. We can see here. Look at that. Now we can just center up right here. So we'll go right about right there. Okay. Yeah. We're just going to try to center that. Yeah. It doesn't look like, I think it's this one. It doesn't look like it is going to offset the drive shaft in any way that we, because here's what we got to do. We got to check for these interferences now, because once we drill holes, we are committed. Okay, so I kind of want that right about there. So this is where the links need to be in. So the reliefs, these little guys, we need to cut and file those in before we can do really anything else. But that looks about right. That looks about right. The front upper interference with the drive shaft is what we're focusing on most. This drive shaft length is going to be perfect. I would also like to weigh a cut to length up against this plastic. That 3 grams, that's crazy. All right, I got to do the reliefs so that we can get the links in. And before I do that, I will do the trace. I will trace marks on to see what needs to be trimmed. All right, the only real problem we're having here, holes are running straight. It's great. Pins fit, screws fit, everything sits. The problem is I keep jamming those pins in and just killing. I think I killed the same one twice. Not a problem with the metal ones. The plastic ones you got to be a little more delicate with. So this looks pretty close. So I have the edge of it lined up right with the groove. We're not getting any binding at all in the rear. That's just a tiny little bit of angle right there. There are no pins in. A tiny little bit of an angle right there. We're moving it over just a hair. The upper shaft was much straighter before. And now also, we've got there's something binding in the front. This is like, I should be able to get the same out of the front. It feels like it's at the wheel knuckle C-hub something. So we will look into that, because that can also manifest itself looking like torque twist. At full compression, we've got a see, look at that. Look at that little shine of light. That's what we want. And that, honestly, that looks pretty good right there. When we have this thing, it's got 8 bolts in it right now. When we have this thing, and that's super easy to line up. I'm literally just lining it up right in between where the link mount positions are. That looks profoundly okay. And because the T-case is right in the middle, in between, we can take some material off there. Also, this is, as we pointed out, 0.375. The stock one is, which is 10 millimeter. The stock one is about 8. So not enough to attack it with a saw. I did, what's the best way to do this without everything falling apart? I guess, like I said, nothing's actually attached. We will be getting a shaft pulled off here to see what the weight differential is. We've put a little bit of shape on the bottom of it. It's close. It's really close. You know what that is? On Delrin, that is plenty close enough. The only wish I have, and we can't manifest it, is that screw, see, is like under the housing. These two would work great. This one is all the way under, and it's a blind, so you have to use a real, where's this guy? I had to use that to attach that side. I think it's an M3 by 5 flat. No, I'm sorry. I had to use that one. I had to use an M3 by 4 flat for that side and a 5 on the other side. If these spanned out further, I would leave no holes in the bottom, and I would just have the screws come down from the top. We don't have the space, so we are going to have holes up through the bottom. That's fine. They are going to rest right about, well, we can simulate it this way. Right about there. That's about where the T-case is going to sit, maybe a little bit after that. So we're going to go right about there. Should be fine. None of those holes will get near anything. And then there's a little bit. I might just give it a little bevel over. And then we'll try to take a little bit of material off of the top. I don't know if I want to go all the way into like lightning holes, though if you'll notice, there's really nothing in between here. So this is just a vast expanse of nothing. They go with the honeycomb because they're injection molding. I'm just operating off of a solid piece. I'm not going to have any problems, no questions about the durability of this. This should be absolutely fine. Here's the cause for concern. Look, if you're feeling a sense of deja vu, it's because that's what's happening. You haven't did been here before. Spin this around. I like the way this skid is mounted. I like the way the servo mounts and the way they do the BTA. There were some innovations on the 10 Pro. And I understand that the gearbox they were going for was attempting a real LCG showing. But the gearbox is inarguably the worst thing about the 10 Pro. And all of the work we're going through here is to get rid of it. They should have just come out with an alternate skid with a 3-bolt or an LCXU pattern. I honestly don't think that the CG would be impacted that badly if this thing was just running a 3-gear, which would have simplified it a lot as well, but everybody's so hot on FMMs. Yeah, we're 47 grams. Pulling 10 grams out of that is gonna be a trick, but you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna try to get there. We are going to try to get there. We're still sitting at, we've got to be 9 millimeters thick. Probably 9.5. Sanding material off of a flat surface like this is pretty time consuming. I think I did strongly okay. Yeah? Let's look at it this way. I mean, we're pretty close. We're pretty close. I took a little more off. I was like, why not? We will find some spots to remove weight, but before we do that, we'll make sure we keep the front, and the rear, and we will get the pull pattern down to get the Creeper T on it, get that drilled, get that countersunk, and then we can go to trying to see, in the terms of the grand weight we needed to be under 35 grams, which is the weight of this. Yep, 35.2, and let's see, not really. And this is 47.5. So it's 12 grams. 12 grams removed. It is low, but it is also sprung. So you know what? We're here to chase. And we're going to chase that a little bit. Alright, you will notice it is very clean. You will have to bear with me if I repeat myself at any moment, because we have fast forwarded about 20 hours. I was part of the way into finishing the fabrication of this little fellow, which came out as well as I could have anticipated. There is still more room to be weight to be removed from it. There's room to, I did zero lightening to it, but it fits perfectly. And an associate showed up, and we sat and we shot the bull, and we talked the talk, and we talked about toy cars. And while we were doing that, much as I do in a live stream, I just keep my hands busy. Like that doesn't even want to settle. Because I got to thinking, how strong is our level of commitment? We have $20 frame rails. We've already altered much of what this is. We acknowledge that we've added, I want to say it's about 300 grams of axle brass. So I was like, what am I willing to remove? What things are going to go in that are going to add weight, inevitably, invariably add weight, and what things can we do to remove that weight? So, as we're talking about $20 Amazon frame rails, okay, we'll get Susan in here. So, chop the chassis, of course. Just cut it straight off here at the back. Doesn't need it. Cut the chassis in the front. Would have preferred to move this pin back to this hole, but because I'm running that big long horn, it goes right through the plane of where that would go. So I can't cut that off unless I figure something else out. This is just, you see, it's got the spin marks from when it was in the lathe. I still do intend to fabricate 3 identical chassis spacers. Haven't yet. I mean, right? What are we talking about here? What else happened? Okay, plastic motor mount back in. I thought that there would be a weight differential between the aluminum motor mount and the plastic, and it was far more substantial than I could have anticipated. About 22 grams, so almost an ounce. I think we'll be fine with the aluminum, as the weight of the vehicle has... We've dropped down a bit. Also, the spur gear has been replaced with, that is the stock spur from a VRD, the 56 tooth. That is a 4-gram spur gear. The included big monster 60 tooth weighs 9.1 grams. So that's half the weight. There's the little holder, the 3-bolt holder. So in total, the entire spur mechanism dropped 16 grams, so just over half an ounce. We added 3 grams back with, remember that this guy weighs 3 grams more than the other. It's so nice. Like, it has adjustable range, so I can disconnect things and I can work on things without having to take the whole vehicle apart. I think I got the angles just about perfect on the drive shaft. There's no interference there. Oh, yes, this happened in the middle. It was not turning smoothly. And you go through the usual things. Is a hex bottoming out? I think I might have mentioned it. I'll try to refresh my own memory. It was that screw right up there rubbing on this. I just flipped the drive shaft around. This is usually the gearbox side, so it's a little bit smaller. That was all the difference. It freed up the front end instantly. Lopped the sliders off. That is genuinely all you need for the sliders. I still don't much care for the look of them, but you know what? It's absolutely fine. And I left it here with a brace through it because you can still pick it up even when the body is installed. Everything goes together and comes apart and goes back together quite smoothly. I did mention 127 aside in the front, 100 aside in the back, which means we're looking at about 450 grams total. None of the tires are perfectly mounted on the wheels. They're all pinching the edge of a bead somewhere. Again, I don't think that in the case of this, it's explicitly going to be a problem. I have numbers written down everywhere. Whether or not I have the energy to transcribe all of these into the sheets, I mean, I should. I'll be sitting in air conditioning at that time, so it should be fine. I made a foolish attempt. I have the Sky RC scale pad system, the old wired style, the one that I usually, there'll be an image up here of like that scale numbers. It's beautiful because to get a weight of a vehicle and a fore aft distribution to show that stuff, it's great. It's fast. You throw it on there, you get the numbers. But I question how gram accurate those numbers are, because I foolishly attempted to do the CGH calculation using the Sky RC scales, and I got crazy numbers. Crazy numbers. The CG raised an inch after removing a not insignificant amount of weight. That's what I meant to check in the photo library. Do we still have the old numbers? Yes. In the last episode, we were sitting at 2,218 grams, 6138 magically weight distribution, 5149 cross. We had about a 60 gram surplus on front, right, rear, left. So this way, it was biased this way for whatever reason. It doesn't, I mean, I guess, yeah, I guess if you look at the way the weight is, we've got this, this, and this. This has been moved forward now. Anyway, we were sitting at 2218, and as of the scaling on these pads, 2082. So we dropped, what is that, 136 grams. My dream goal was a kilo. Even kilo. Could not quite get there, and it's going to cost money to drop that 82 grams. Now, I did have to take into account mentally that there's 300 grams of brass on the front axle. So this thing could be down in the between 1,700 and 1,800 grams. Then there's also approaches like lose the 850 in favor of like a 380. There's all sorts of things that could drop more grams, more grams, more grams. I had even contemplated plastic beadlocks in the front, glue-ons in the back. I'm not ready for that. That is a level of commitment that I have not achieved yet. 2082 grams, 6337 weight distribution, and it would flicker. The scales would flicker between 6337 and 6436. So it is very front biased, and that is not surprising because if you look at this thing from above and you look right here, there's nothing back there. There's no, like in terms of sprung weight behind the gearbox, absolutely nothing. I was fretting over grams because this whole thing is an exercise in fretting over grams. The Creeper T weighs 62.5 grams, and as it sits basically untrimmed out, my skid weighs 47.5. I wanted to hit 35, but I lopped the whole butt off. Guess how much came off? 12 grams. I took 12 grams off the rear end, so we just moved 12 grams. Those 12 grams didn't come off, but they went down there instead of back there. Then when I was assembling it, I didn't notice. We've got the holes right here. This is the factory link mount position right there. I bolted it together, not looking, into the top hole, which would be the highest amount of anti-squat in the rear. And it really did some crazy stuff with the weight. So I was like, maybe that's why it looked weird on the Sky RC scales. So I scaled the whole thing twice. I scaled it in RTR configuration with it in the upper mount hole, and then I scaled it again and did all the calculation again with it in the stock hole. I didn't go so far as to put it into the lower hole because, well, basically the number that I got from the lower hole, I was like, that's a good number. So, we're riding on that number. CGH in the upper hole, 2.9 inches. So what would that be? 70, call it about 74 and a half millimeters. We were at, I think, 72 millimeters before. Does that sound right? That sounds about right. Moved it into the middle hole, and we're not talking huge shifts in grams. We're talking typically 10 to 12 grams moving, going from the front raised, rear raised. Nevertheless, mounted in this position, the ant problem persists. Mounted in this position, the CGH, as sitting, it is sitting right like this. The CGH is 63 millimeters off the ground, which puts this so far out in front of any other vehicle in the fleet. The half millimeter hashes, I can't even read it. All right, let's put it this way. The top of the stub axle is 57 millimeters off the ground. So the CGH of this vehicle is about the top of the SLW hub, just below the bolts. That is I think it's below the chassis. It's not quite below the bottom of the chassis. You see this unused hole right here? You probably can. The CGH runs right through there, which is roughly the top of the Delrin skid. So this surface right here is the CGH. It's that low. Because look at what we have in terms of sprung weight. Not a lot. It's all right here. And I can guarantee you that this up here weighs more than everything right there. I would still love to be able to, in its current configuration, knowing that there's 300 grams of added weight in the front, I would love to get it to a 2000 flat and then hit up the good old Amazon and purchase some brass bits, like replace these tubes with brass or replace the C-hubs with brass. Just try adding little incremental amounts to see what we're doing, because it's crazy. I mean, I know I'm not a big forward bias guy. I'm more of a sprung versus unsprung guy. But like, maybe that's because typically I'm dealing with vehicles that are in the 3.5 kilo range and not the 2.08 kilo range. A 62 millimeter CGH with somewhere between 63 and 64% front weight is bonkers for what we build around here. As I had said before, and I will repeat again gladly, this is the only one. The Canyon needs a flyweight. This is going to be it. There are potentials to shave weight. I have already ordered a bag of Amazon aluminum wheel nuts. That's 5 wheel nuts on there. That'll take off another, probably in the 8 gram range every little bit. We've got 82, but we've got between 82 and 85 grams to shave. And there's some stuff that I just can't do. There might be a transfer case out there that is lighter, that doesn't have these big honking steel gears. 62.5 grams is not heavy in the grand scheme of things. Like, say, like if we were talking about a Stealth X as a whole gearbox, this is going to weigh significantly more than the FMM. That whole apparatus together is going to weigh half of what this weighs. So heavy is a very relative term. I am pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked, bro, on how it's sitting right now. Also, I can still trim the front off of that. That's a gram or two. This is what we do. We chase the grams. Am I going to look into seeing if I can get just a little sachet, a little purse of M3x10 screws in titanium or aluminum? Yes, because 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Mounting the Chessions 10s. These down here through are 10s. That's another, I'll go as high as like 15 grams. The big weight reductions would be these big guys that go in here, which are like 18s and 20s. This big guy back here. I'm not too worried about the sprung stuff. Like, I'm not putting titanium in the axles. It doesn't really matter. If we're going to have a little bit of weight there, that's the place to have the weight. I think, you know what? This is the thing. If you're going to get into the weeds, get all the way in. Don't just walk around. Dive in. If we're going to shave weight, we shave weight. Will I be shortening the wires like the JST and stuff like that? Or, more likely, just cutting the JST, hard wiring it onto the plug? Yeah, probably. But not right now. Right now, we are as min-maxed as we can get based on the material we have on hand. 2.08 kilograms. What's it gonna do? Now, first things first, I'm the realist. Second things second, I hate that body so much. It's such an amplifier. It is a full-blown speaker box. It makes the rig, I don't think it would be exaggerating to say 5 times as loud. Anyway. Rhetorical question of the day. How many spider webs did I walk through to get back? I'm walking into spider webs, so leave a message and I'll call you back. How many did I walk through? Why it's a all of them. All of them. They string them at about 5'10", right? So they get me like right across the face. Oh. The spiders are not having a hard time. Okay, so here's what we're noticing. And what are we talking about? I know, part of me was discounting it mentally because we're talking 2218 to 2082. That was what we said, yeah, right? 136 grams. So I'd go, it's 136 grams. No, bro, it's 136 grams. That's what, 4.5 ounces, just shy of 5 ounces? Dropping 5 ounces is not insignificant. It drives so light, so light. What it doesn't do, and I think this is a component of the so lightness, it can't bully its way through anything. It will get you, you'll find spots where the tire will like drop in or something will drag a little and you have to maneuver your way out of it. I think there's a sort of a laziness is fostered by that 7.5 pounder. It can kind of boss its way through. The thing I would be most curious about, but do not have the time based on, you know, the clock itself and the rising of the morning sun is like, what are we going to be, look at that turn circle. What are we going to be looking at in terms of battery life? Like it has to be improved. Okay, that is no longer difficile, it is facile only through there. Now what I'm thinking about is, okay, so the 10 Pro chassis and the layout of it, breakover is not its big key. It's not skid forward. It doesn't have a wasp waist. It's got pretty good breakover for something with straight axles, but it doesn't have like when we came through right here, again, look at the turning circle. Get to right here. Okay, all right. If you know where to point it, just point it there. This is this 10 Pro axle setup with the Flash Hobby 50 kg back there. It's really close to an F10 straight. Like it feels a lot like an F10 straight. And I gotta, in this particular instance, I gotta give the edge to the 10 Pro axle here. In this sort of, in a servo on axle, this sort of a configuration, the servo attachment is better. It's lower. The stuff doesn't get in the way. We don't have to worry about chassis clearances. And the advantage of the 10 Pro here is that it's a fully modular axle. You can build it from Amazon parts. You can change the tubes, the mounts, everything. You can change anything, like every little brass bit, non-brass, but what do you want, plastic, what do you want, brass? There's a definite advantage there. Rear axle, doesn't matter. Could be the same exact thing. You could sneak in there and put a an F10 straight in the rear. No one would know. No one would know. I'm not a lightweight convert. I've been at this for a minute. But I gotta say, advantages, yeah. I'm starting to think that some of the lizards are overtly suicidal. One of them waited for me to set the bucket chair, ran directly under the bucket chair. If I had not seen him do this, I think we would have a lizard paste on the bottom of the bucket chair. Like, nah, that's nice. And through here. So you get those little slips, that little buh right there. That's because S4 comp pin, nothing on the sides. So we got a tire right here, we were coming up right here, and we had gotten to a point where it was just on sidewall, so we just kind of smooth. I would say where it says comp pin on the sides, we've worn about halfway through that. We use the sidewall pressure a lot. Surprisingly, these are the stock foams, and they are doing solidly okay. I don't notice a lot of instances of just loss of forward drive. Okay, I'm gonna stay as close to this guy as I can get. I don't know if I can get the edge up over now. But the ability to pull that rear end up over, and that is 20% net underdrive. It has this setup here, and I have to assume that it's the weight. Doing the weight is the determiner here. I don't notice the underdrive at all. The rig drives exceptionally neutral or neutrally. It drives neutrally. It drives neutral. The handling behavior is neutral. Those little shutters. What this guy needs is teleportation. He needs a time machine that will take us to October so that I can mount up the bagged set of S5 XHX pins, which was part of the unwillingness to glue on the S4s. That would commit those pins to this vehicle and this vehicle alone. And during those months of the year when it's not 111 in the afternoon, this guy's getting S5s. This guy in a couple months' time is going to be trouble. Boy, advantages to narrowness too, right? We've seen some rigs kind of fumble their way through there. He just drove right through. I can't get over the steer angle. It's pretty good. I think it comes down to elements of expectation. Like, I was fairly confident that shedding that 4.5 to 5 ounces was not going to impact negatively. I just, we all do. We all want celestial alchemy. We want the performance to exceed the parts, the sum total of the parts. The work that we've done, we want more return than we've invested. That's a dummy line, is what that is. Little pushy, but not a lot pushy. A little pushy, but not a lot pushy. Cutting across, okay, center cut should be no problem. Little slip slide, okay, pushing out. Will it come back? I think it could have. Little pirouette there. Use a little bit of that sidewall. All I can think about right now is XHX pin. Those little bit of ribs on the sides, I wouldn't have had, oh no, I wouldn't have had to use as much steering to get up over there. This is a criminal level of maneuverability. It's not just the forward drive. A lot of the forward drive is just going to come from a pin, because we've seen exhibitions of this kind of forward drive in vehicles that are very nearly double the weight of this one. Not full, 4 kilo, 88. 160% of the weight of this vehicle. And again, in the terms of that ROI, like, what kind of time has been spent tweaking and fiddling? Oh man, a lot. So much. It is not. It's this vehicle right here. I'm pointing vigorously. I'm going, this vehicle right here is the worst case scenario. You know how I talk about like an imaginary tachometer that says cost on one end and labor on the other, and if you swing the needle all the way to labor, you do it yourself, you fabricate your own parts, you make exactly what you want, and then you don't have to spend a bunch of money buying expensive things. Lightweight is 2 needles on the same graph, and they're one is pointing directly at labor and one is pointing directly at cost. I bought a $15 bag of wheel nuts of M4 aluminum lock nuts because they are good for far fewer uses than the steel ones. Nylocks are generally regarded as single-use anyway. But and I feel like many are like this, will reuse a nylock until it no longer holds and it just falls off. Like when your wheel falls off on the course, you know it's time to change your wheel nuts. The aluminums are legitimately good for 3 or 4 applications and removals, and then they're just like wallowed out. Because the threads in the aluminum, like when the nylock starts to give on a regular wheel nut, it's still a steel nut, so it can still hold. Those aluminum threads presented with the torque presented by a wheel tire combo, they just can't. You'll be driving back from your course and you'll notice your wheels flongling around. If you go to the absolute extremes, got one. Oh man, got one good. Look at that guy. Ugh. Complete with the blood smear. How much of that is me? Keep a cross wrench in your pocket. Drill a hole in the 4mm side that nobody needs. Put it on a keychain. If you're going to live the lightweight, if you're going to live the flyweight lifestyle, keep a cross wrench on you basically at all times, because stuff's going to fall off. I would, even if they're ungraded, so long as they're light. As I said, I'm looking to get a bag of M3x10 titaniums. I have previous life experience with aluminum, and aluminum tends to do this little annoying thing. They're very light. They're the lightest fastener you can get, essentially. Well, that's not true. You can get nylon. Just don't. Not in a rock crawler. In a pan car, you can get away with some nylon fasteners. Aluminum has this annoying tendency to shear. So if we were to fall off of right here, right now, and we landed on a frame rail in a particular little way, it would just shear the fastener off at the head. And sometimes there'll be enough meat out there where you can grab it and get the stud out, but oftentimes it will just break off flush. And then you're like, okay, well, that part's done. Now I get to throw that part away too. So I will go as far as ungraded titanium of questionable grade and quality, but I will make every effort not to use aluminum. But how all-consuming is the lust to remove that 82 grams? To get down to, and I want it to 2,000 grams with that weight on the axle. I don't want to sacrifice added weight. I mean, I want to put weight back in. I want to get it to 2,000. Look at that. Look at that. Had the 10 Pro previously had something of an issue making it through that center cut? Yeah. Does it now? No. I would like this rig, I would like the final 2.2 kilos final weight with the weight I want added of the unsprung variety. So in the axles. I would like to see, look at how high that nose end is sitting on 0.8s. I would like to see if we get to a point where I have to add weight to the rear axle because it starts to float on us. You basically have to use throttle everywhere. This is an AG Innovations Ninja with a Rhino S12-1470. That is a small, light. I would be amazed if the Ninja is a 40 amp. It's probably a 30 or a 35 amp speed control. It doesn't matter. We have so little weight to move that, yeah, I mean, there are certainly advantages to lightweight. But it is kind of, I mean, even in terms of brass bits, aluminum bits, all sort of shenanigans, this is kind of the most expensive way to build a vehicle. And it's extremely labor intensive because nobody is out there peddling lightweight parts. And yes, in case anyone is hollering it, you can still, so far as I know, you go on the right website, peddling wares from the Far East, you can get plastic Tamiya bushings and swap out your axle bearings for plastic bushings. Don't do that. Like, say let's call it a prop shaft, the little top shaft that has the spur gear mounted to it in the center shaft. You change that out to titanium. That's an easy 5 grams right there. The gears and shafts in the knockout, in the Creeper T clone, are one piece. So we can't change the shafts out in there. You could spend the big money, get yourself a non-clone, get yourself a real one. That'd be lighter. This one is fun because the camera can actually see it a little bit better than I can. I can't really see it. So we have a surplus of maneuverability, and we still have retained. I'm going to try to come toward camera here. This is a more dummy line than the dummy line I did earlier. Oh, you had it. Okay. I hope camera 2 is capturing this. I've got nothing. Got it a little. Okay, go on, grab it. Oh, you know what it is? I mean, it's fun. It's fun. And Marie is very happy right now. I'm happy. Marie's happy because here's the real deal relevant Holyfield. The 10 Pro out of the box was not condo approved. Get off of me. There was just something about, like, the parts didn't congeal, coalesce. The parts didn't combine to form a whole that was a thing that I wanted. But the 10 Pro has sprung forward in sparking joy. Let's think of it in direct comparison to a VRD Carbon. As a tinkerer, I sit here. To me, this does not apply to everyone, certainly. This is as far from a blanket statement as you can get. The VRD Carbon, to me, is almost too well thought out. There is little to nothing that need to be done to a VRD Carbon. Is it more capable with a set of ZRD rails with the beautiful ZRD sliders? Well, I mean, it looks better. And I think that the roof, the top limit of the performance goes even higher. But other than that, like, I'm trying to think in terms of customization stuff. I don't think that the stubby kit is explicitly helpful unless you're doing something like a brazen frontline, unless you're doing something to move your skid forward, unless you're really altering the geometry of the vehicle. The stock geometry of the vehicle is good. The stock geometry of this vehicle is good. It's just everything else. This is so axial. I'm gesticulating vigorously behind the camera. They got the axles really right. I mean, I had long thought that Axial had peaked with the AR-44. Simplicity, durability, inexpensive, fits. Servo on axle, easy. Chassis mounted steering, easy. I'm giving it to the 10 Pro axle now. The 10 Pro axle, from my perspective, again, as a tinkerer, the best axle Axial's ever done. That's hard to say because it is a tinkerer's axle. You can change each individual piece, as I mentioned. The only thing that could make the 10 Pro axle even better is if they offered parts that it will allow you to build its center pumpkin and basically build a Pro 44. Now, that would be asking a real lot and would negate the ability to run this style of servo on axle, but I would still like it. Some gearboxes really prefer a center pumpkin. This gearbox, this setup pretty much necessitates offset. It is surprisingly forgiving. And again, I think that has to be the weight coming through as well. Ordinarily, that's not an approach angle that we'd be like, yeah, let's go to that. Also, well, let's talk for just a moment about the fact that these are just open cell, single stage foam. Just foam. Why foam? Well, it's the lightest thing I can put in there. Look at that stability on the descent. I did not anticipate that stability on the descent, but then again, I remember very light. There's not a lot of rear end to throw over. How about right up through here? Responding well to a variety of throttle inputs. If you're not getting purchase, it's just a little flick of the wheel. Oh, that's very good. Just, I'm watching the rear. Yeah, were there concerns when I removed 50 grams from the rear combos? Yeah. That is unsprung. It is rotating. I can't, aside from the ultimate commitment of gluing that set of tires on, there's really no way to get my sprung lower. But there is. Here I am sitting not wanting to do it, I think is what it comes down to. I'll do anything for flyweight performance, but apparently I won't do that. I have a box of glue-on wheels. There are some 5-spokes in there that are probably under 10 grams per wheel. I go to Vanquish fronts. I move those rears to the front to unmount those fronts and glue them on. We are going to drop another, oh man, probably 90 grams. Meaning the whole wheel tire insert combo for all 4 would be like 360 grams. I'm the kilo of wheelos guy. This is counter to mostly everything I do. Should I cut the windows out on the bottom half of the hot dog bun that is a 10 Pro body? There is weight to be shaved, and the more I drive it, the more I think there is weight to be shaved. It can become obsessive. So there's a particular gentleman in the comments that screams, lightweight, always. And there is definitely something to that. I mean, there is. The performance cannot be outright denied. I mean, are we even driving down a hill? Let me try to find something here. Okay, I think camera 2 will pick it up. Just come across here. I can't see this approach angle at all. So I won't know. Little wall there. Get over there. Okay. Basically, what I call fallbacks, where you get that weight transfer at the midpoint and you'll lose just enough traction on the front, you just slide back. Fallbacks with this gentleman are so small and so predictable. Did we just bump? Did we just bump a shear face at probably 55 degrees? Yeah, sure, why not? How about straight up? I mean, my complaints are, I haven't removed enough weight. Yeah. This is a rabbit hole that I didn't want to go down for a reason, because I'm going to get to the bottom of that rabbit hole. Can we all see an inevitable future where I glue those rear wheels on? Probably. For today, Marie beams down a loving gaze from high above. Condo approved. Absolutely. This is how the 10 Pro should be. And I'll say that subjectively 1,000%, objectively like 95%. Get your 10 Pro as light as you can physically get it. It is way more fun and way more capable. And I thank you all so much for joining me. I'm running out of time on this file and the sun is really baking me. I invite you to tune into whatever we have next. I invite you to one and all do your very best to have a good one in between now and when we meet again. I again thank you for the final time for being here in the canyon. Rainbird and I, he's kind of come into his name. He's just Rainbird now. Thanks for joining us. Tune in again. Hit us in the comments. Lightweight lifestyle. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good.